Hello. Welcome to episode 9 of the Unspoken Rules podcast. I am your host, Sebastian, a.k.a. Rabid, and I'm here with my co-host, Montana, a.k.a. Wildcard. Good morning, brother. How you doing today?
Good morning.
Good morning, man. All right, man. Today is a very special treat for you all as we got two important guests. First of all, we want to welcome back everybody's favorite guest, Mr. Blake Spillers. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Great to be back on the show. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Appreciate you asking. And his best friend, a.k.a. Montana's cousin, a.k.a. the GOAT, the man of the hour, Mr. Bethel Sports or Bethel Hoops, small forward, Nathan Ertz. How you doing, brother? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show. Ready to talk about these two games from last night? Just get into that.
Yes, sir. Well, we will be previewing those two games from last night, as well as talking about tonight's games and what we think about them and whatnot. Montana, take it away.
Alrighty. So we had. Did I call this? The Brooklyn Nets win 125-86. Was it a 39 point win? Yeah, that's insane. Even without James Harden, the Nets are still unstoppable. We had Kyrie Irving, who had 22 points, 6 assists, and 5 rebounds in 34 minutes. Kevin Durant had 32 points, 6 assists, and 4 rebounds in 33 minutes. Blake Griffin, a little bit returned to earth, had 7 points and 8 rebounds in 26 minutes. And Joe Harris had 13 points and 1 rebound in 30 minutes. As far as the Milwaukee Bucks go, we had Giannis Antetokounmpo, who had 18 points, 4 assists, and 11 rebounds in 31 minutes. Jrue Holiday had 13 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. And then Brook Lopez had 10 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists. So the question to the panel is, are the Milwaukee Bucks about to get swept by the Brooklyn Nets without James Harden?
All right, I guess I'll start first. Like I mentioned yesterday, if Middleton and the role players don't come to perform, there's no point of them, honestly, at this point, even playing this damn series. They might as well just pack it up, go home, and this series is pretty much over. The fact that James Harden is not playing and the fact that they played so weird it was a very weird performance. I don't know why they settled for shots. Kenny said it last night like the best way. They settled for shots rather than focusing on what they do best, and that's defense. Coming in, they had one of the best defensive-minded teams in the NBA, and now they're just allowing the Brooklyn Nets to go 21 for 42 from the three, shooting 50%. And then they started shooting threes to try and get back into the game and went 8 for 27, shooting 29% from the field. I don't understand what Budenholzer's mindset was going in. I don't know. It's very confusing. It's very sad to see because everyone was hyping up the Bucks, that the Bucks could go to the NBA Finals and somehow beat the Brooklyn Nets. But without James Harden and clearly how dominant the Nets are by getting consistent play from everybody on this court playing, I don't know, bro. It's very interesting, a very interesting situation. Blake?
I would definitely say the Nets just look way more confident out there. Like, not even just their star players, because obviously Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, I mean, they're confident players. They're going to go get you buckets. But there's players like Bruce Brown. You've got players like Nicholas Claxton, Landry Shamet. They're coming in there and they're playing confident. They're playing like they want to be there. The Bucks don't look like they want to be there. They're playing not to lose rather than to win. And I think that's what's killing them, really. Like, they're playing with no heart. They're forcing shots, like Sebastian said. And I think Mike Budenholzer is just he's always been called a regular season coach. And I think that's just getting exposed right now. He doesn't know how to make adjustments. And when he does make adjustments, he makes them late. And it's almost like it doesn't matter. The Nets, I believe, they were torching the Bucks from 3 last night. And Mike Budenholzer thought it was a good idea to switch to a zone. I mean, I don't know what he's thinking. I mean, Nathan, you got anything to say about that?
I mean, I think anytime in the NBA when you're switching to a zone, it's never a good sign. I mean, in the NBA, most every guy on that team can shoot the ball. So if you're going to a zone, especially with a team like the Brooklyn Nets, when you got Joe Harris, Kevin Durant, Kyrie, even Blake Griffin was shooting last night. It's just you're going to get open shots. You get to the middle of the paint, you have every other way to pass the ball. But I just look at the stat sheet and 27 assists to 14 assists for the Brooklyn Nets, and they're just passing the ball. Everyone on every single possession is touching the ball. And when you see the Bucks come up the court, they just do a pick and roll at the top of the key every single time. When that doesn't work, they're shooting a contested three every single time. I mean, Chris Middleton and Giannis combined for, I think, 12 or 14 points in the first half. And I believe Chris Middleton 7 for 20. It's just they're forcing shots every single possession, and it's just not a good winning basketball formula.
Alrighty, so here's my issue with the Milwaukee Bucks. The Miami Heat should have been here in the second round, not the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks are complete garbage. They don't know how to play basketball. Bryn Forbes is a horrible player. I don't know what the hell happened from round 1 to round 2, because this guy is complete trash. I don't know how he cooked the Heat so badly, and then he comes down to earth and in round 2 and only drops 10 points in game 2. That's ridiculous. Drew Holiday, this guy, he was paid the max money for some reason. God knows why. He had four rebounds and 3 assists. The guy is not playing like he's a max player. And I don't know, Giannis Antetokounmpo is a little bit stupid for signing that max extension, because he's got to realize by now that he's not going to get out of the East with the Milwaukee Bucks. No matter how much they try to add pieces to the team, they're not going to be as good as the Brooklyn Nets. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are A-list superstar players. Even without James Harden, they're still really good. James Harden, yes, with James Harden, they probably would have won by 50. But besides that, Blake Griffin didn't even have to do what he did in game 1 to win the game, because contributions from Bruce Brown Jr. and Mike James, who came out of nowhere last night, dropped 10 points. Landry Shamet, even Tyler Johnson got some action. I think everyone played for the Brooklyn Nets yesterday on the roster. So like, I just don't see if they won by 39 in game 2. I just don't see how Brooklyn doesn't sweep Milwaukee going forward. So like, do you guys think that Milwaukee has a chance to win a game here?
Like I said, defensively, if they start focusing on trying to maintain and contain the 2 men of KD and Kyrie, rather than focus on trying to play catch up, you know what I'm saying, and force all these dumbass shots. If they focus on slowing them down, I think they have a small chance. But I want to give credit really quick to Nick Claxton. You know, in the 14 minutes he played really dominant in the sense of his defensive presence. It looked like a Jarrett Allen comparison. I'm seeing what they're developing with him. I'm very impressed with that. I just want to give him a little shout out. He played he impressed me a lot defensively last night.
Well, first I'm going to mention, Montana, do you really think that the Heat would be in a better position to do anything to the Nets? Because let's not forget that when the Bucks played horrible in game 1, they could not hit a 3 to save their life. I believe they shot under 20%. The Heat still could not win. So what do you think that like a performance like that would do for the Heat against the Nets? Like, I understand the Bucks are getting destroyed right now, but do you think the Heat really would have – and this, I'm not even trying to hate on the Heat, but I'm being honest. Do you really think that the Heat would have been able to put up a better fight? Because the Heat were doing everything the Bucks were doing except worse. I mean, the Bucks swept them and are doing to them what the Bucks are having the Nets do to them right now.
Listen, let me just get in on this. Hold on, Montana. I got you. All I got to say is I think if anything, this would be worse, but I'm going to keep it a buck. Our Heat team this year was not the same. Our Heat team, I love them as much as, I can defend them, but right now I'll be on your side. Sorry, Montana. I don't think we would do anything. Let the Bucks get cooked. I'm happy with that. You know what I'm saying? And that's all I really got.
I would like to think the Miami Heat would be a better defensive team than the Milwaukee Bucks. I like to think that the Milwaukee Bucks, the only reason they won round 1 is because they got some crazy-ass performances from guys like Bryn Forbes. So, like, I think we have a better bench than Milwaukee does. Starters-wise, we just had a bad series. Like, honestly, if we had Jimmy Butler at his A game, if we had Bam at his A game, if Dragic wasn't playing like he was so old all the time, Tyler Hero, if he would have, returned to form, yes, I do think the Miami Heat would have won at least 1 or 2 games from the Brooklyn Nets.
Well, don't you think Bucks fans could make that same argument if we have Chris Middleton at our A game, if we have Giannis at our A game, if we have Drew Holiday playing well up to form, that this would be a better series? The problem is they are playing
at their A game. This is what we're expecting from guys like Chris Middleton, because Chris Middleton is he's not an A player, he's a B player at best.
He's definitely
Giannis Antetokounmpo is, yes, he had a little bit of an off game, but he still put up 18 points and 11 rebounds. It's not like he didn't play horrible. So, I don't know.
I mean,
to answer the original question, though, I think the Bucks definitely can win at least 1 game, because the Bucks are a team that normally, like they did against the Heat, they can shoot the 3 ball well. They haven't so far through the first 2 games, but if they catch, it's the NBA. If the Bucks catch fire in a game, they definitely can steal one from the Nets. And I'm seeing a lot of Nets fans talking about this improved defense and like, are the Nets a good defensive team now? See, I don't think I think the Nets are better defensively because they're putting in more effort than they did, which is what you would expect. But I don't think they're a good defensive team. They're just playing smart defense. They're putting a hand up, they're forcing bad shots, and they're doing everything they need to do. And the Bucks aren't really testing them defensively. So I can't really say that the Nets are a good defensive team yet.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, come on, to discredit the Bucks, Montana, just like saying that the Heat could pull out a game or two against the Nets, I think it's crazy because if you look at this Bucks roster, you got Giannis, Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez, Drew Holiday, and PJ Tucker. All those guys. I mean, Drew Holiday, I think, is a potential to be Defensive Player of the Year. The way I think he's great on defense. Giannis, I don't know how you can score on him. I mean, this roster is solid, so I think it's crazy to say that this Bucks team is just not good. I mean, I think they still can get 1 or 2 games out of this series. Just looking at the roster, and if they shoot, I don't even know, just maybe 5% better from the 3-point line. I mean, it's a series. I think. I mean,
they
game
won by 39 points.
This game, I agree, it was a blowout. Just in all aspects, they were getting killed. But at home in Milwaukee, I mean, game 1, it wasn't as bad as it might have looked. I mean, I think they can get a few games out of the series still.
It really just comes down to like their bench and their key role players. Like their bench got outscored. If their bench like matches the Brooklyn Nets' bench, it's obviously a closer game. And like Nathan said, if they shoot the ball slightly better, I think it becomes, a closer game and momentum maybe switches or whatever the case may be. But to not like be down, for the Brooklyn Nets to not be down this entire game is a problem on Milwaukee's side. And Milwaukee needs to get into like, I don't know what they do or what they need to do, whether it's film or whatever the case may be, or Mike got to do something with that defense. I don't know what they need to do or what they plan on doing, but somebody's got to shut somebody down because there's no chance that this stays a series or goes even the distance in the sense of like 5 or 6 if they don't do anything to improve. I hope when they go home, something gets fixed. If not, I just expect a sweep.
I mean, before the series started, I think everyone thought that the Nets down. I mean, even before the playoffs started, everyone talked about downfall being their defense. And you guys mentioned it. They're just playing with a lot more energy and a lot more. I mean, their rotations are just quick. They're there. I mean, they held Milwaukee to 86 points, which for any NBA team is crazy. Even though it's the playoffs, I get that. But 86 points for the Brooklyn Nets, I mean, they're just playing better. But I still think that Milwaukee can get a few games.
Let's not forget that the Clippers were down 2-0 in their series, and people were calling a sweep and saying, I mean, they didn't look good in game 1 or 2, and they weren't it wasn't a blowout like it was necessarily for the Nets Bucks, but the games weren't that close, and the Clippers were not playing good, and people were calling for their sweep. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen in this series, but I think the Bucks could definitely, if the Bucks start playing like they usually have all year and last round against the Heat, then yeah, we could definitely see a couple games for the Bucks.
The reason I'm pointing is Montana was that person to call that sweep.
No, I did say that Dallas was going to sweep, but as soon as it was 2-2, what did I say? I said the Clippers were going to win. Didn't I not?
I'm just saying you were one of the. You know what I mean? You're one of those people.
Well, I thought. Yeah, I don't think Milwaukee. Milwaukee maybe gets 1 game. That's it. It's over in 4 or 5. Yep. Brooklyn is just going to tear through every single team they play against, even if it's no matter who it is, if it's Philadelphia or Atlanta, or if it's Sebastian's precious Phoenix Suns. They're gonna either take him at 4 or 5 games. That's it. The Brooklyn Nets are winning the championship. It's like there's no point in playing the rest of the playoffs, if you ask me. All right. So as we get away from the Brooklyn Nets winning 125-86. We move on to Sebastian's favorite NBA team, the Phoenix Suns. They won 122-105 yesterday. The Phoenix Suns had 4 20-point scorers. Chris Paul had 21 points, 11 assists, and 6 rebounds. Devin Booker had 21 points, 8 assists, and 4 rebounds. Mikal Bridges, who played really well yesterday, had 23 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. And DeAndre Ayton had 20 points and 10 rebounds. For the Denver Nuggets, we had Nikola Jokic, who had a pretty pedestrian game for his standards, had 22 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists. Aaron Gordon had 18 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists. Michael Porter Jr. had 15 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists. And Facundo Campazzo had 14 points, 6 assists, and 4 rebounds. And JaMychal Green had 10 points, 11 rebounds, and 1 assist. Monte Morris, who struggled mightily yesterday, had 2 points, 6 assists, and 1 rebound. So the question to the panel, obviously I know where Sebastian is going to go, but are the Phoenix Suns clearly the better team than the Denver Nuggets, or do we think that Denver is going to bounce back in Game 2 and make this a series?
All right. So, like I said, you know what I'm saying? The Phoenix Suns were going to have that momentum after beating the quote-unquote GOAT, the defending champs. You know what I'm saying? I knew Game 1 was going to be a Phoenix Suns dub. I did not know it was going to be a blowout, though. I know some people could say it's not a blowout, whatever the case may be. But I think the rest of the series, we see closer games. I still think the Suns win in 6. I still think the Nuggets get 2 games. Monte Morris's performance, like you mentioned, 1 for 10. Not the greatest. The man literally was averaging like 15 to 20, maybe even 25 in that Portland series. So to see him come out and only have 2 points, that's a surprise. I did not like how Michael Porter was playing in the sense of, trying to just spark everything. I know Blake mentioned it before we started the show. It was just a very, he was just in that trying to heat check everything. And I just didn't like that. Michael Porter definitely needs to play better. 15 points is not ideal for him in order for them to win this series. I think he needs about 25 plus. Jokic shooting 10 for 23. Again, not ideal. He needs to average the same thing that he did in Portland with about a 30 bomb. But yeah, that game was really close up until like that late stretch in the third by the Suns with CP3 hitting those big shots, as well as getting that lob to get the crowd, going. And after that, going into that fourth, it kind of was, I saw, or at least I thought the game was just over at that point. But if the Nuggets get, better performances from Austin Rivers, Michael Porter to play smarter, Monte Morris, which you would expect he's going to step up next game. I think it's going to be a closer game. I just don't know who's going to win that one at that point. But I got Phoenix in 6. I'll call it here like I have been for a very long time. Blake?
Yeah, I'd say before the series started, I was definitely agreeing with you, Sebastian. I said that if the Suns have a healthy Chris Paul, the series will be over in 6. Now, to go off of what Montana was asking, I think that the Suns are definitely the better team than the Nuggets without Gary Harris, without Jamal Murray. But you add those 2 players back in the lineup, there's definitely an argument to be made that the Nuggets have a better team than the Suns. But obviously, that's not the case. The Nuggets don't have those 2 players, and the Suns are definitely the better team then with a healthy Chris Paul, and it showed last night. The Suns did everything they needed to do. There was the point in the third quarter where the Nuggets were up 10 points. They opened up on like a 12-4 run, and then the Suns just hit enough shots to stick with it, and then they went on a huge run. I think they ended up going up 10 in that third quarter as well. And I said before the series started that Mikal Bridges was going to have a great series for them to win. And what did my boy do? He went in and had himself a game, 23, 5-5. If I'm a Suns fan, I couldn't be happier with the way he played. He was playing with energy. He was hitting down open shots. He was hitting contested shots. He was doing everything you want your third best player to do. And I think if he has a series like that, this could be over in 5. But then again, what isn't talked about, DeAndre Ayton played great defense on Nikola Jokic. He was not allowing Jokic to have any easy shots in the paint. He was giving him a little bully ball down there, and you don't usually see that happen to Jokic. Jokic is usually down there. He finesses. He's big, but he's not like really big. He does a lot of finesse moves down in the post that gets him easy buckets, and it just wasn't going for him yesterday. And if him scoring 22 and Ayton scoring 20, I consider that a wash. And if I'm a Suns fan, that's all I could ask for out of DeAndre Ayton is just to have a wash with Jokic. But other than that, I think, like he said, Michael Porter Jr. just needs to have a better game. He was forcing shot after shot, and it's not like he was hot at any point, but he'd be pulling up 5 feet beyond the 3-point line with a contested 3, and that's just not a good shot. It's not a winning shot is what I should say. But like Sebastian said, I think Suns win this in 5 or 6. The Nuggets will make the series close in terms of each game will be probably around 5 to 7 points. But yeah, I think the Suns win with the injuries that the Nuggets have.
Answering Montana's question, after that game, I do not think that the Suns are the better team in the series. Going into the third quarter, I don't think anyone clearly said that, wow, this Suns team, they're really outplaying the Nuggets, because they weren't at any stretch of the game. But in the second half, when you're shooting 65% from the field and almost 50% from three. I mean, obviously you're going to win by a decent amount. And still the Nuggets kept their cool and they kept fighting back. But I mean, one of you guys mentioned it, Michael Porter scoring 2 points in the second half. That just can't happen if you're going to win the basketball game. It just can't happen. And Blake, you brought up a good point about Aiden washing out Jokic. But I just don't see that happening every single game of the series. I just think that Jokic is too good to shoot 10 from 23 from the field every single night. Yeah. So I think that Jokic is really going to come out these next few games and show why he is the MVP of the league. And I mean, if you just look at this box score, everyone from the Suns was contributing. So Devin Booker really didn't have to do everything and play hero ball. I mean, everyone was balling out there. So I just don't see that happening from the Suns every single game of the series. So I still think that the Nuggets can win the series in 6 or 7 games.
Let me get in on this really quick. One thing that I forgot to mention is the aggressiveness that we saw from the Phoenix Suns. Like, as you can see, they shot 20 free throws. With the Denver Nuggets, they had like no intention to attack that paint because of how like protected that was by DeAndre Ayton in the cast. Like the fact that they only shot 6 free throws that entire game blows my mind. Like I don't know. Obviously, we'll definitely see something different, but the fact of the matter is, are they too scared? Are they? I think Aaron Gordon. I said it before the episode started. Aaron Gordon said the Nuggets played soft. Forward said Denver was soft or scared in game 1's loss to the Suns. That's what it felt like. We was just breaking down. Are they scared of DeAndre Ayton's presence? Are they scared of like the defensive impact that Monte has set up for that team against Denver, or what's the problem here? I have no idea. But like Nathan said, I definitely think we'll see a completely different game in game 2. Hopefully it's a close one because this was getting out of control and out of hand very, very fast towards that late stretch.
So I'm still going to stick by what I said yesterday about this series. I do believe that Denver is still going to win the series in 7 games. Yes, the Phoenix Suns had a great second half, but Denver was up 57-56, if I'm not mistaken, going into that second half.
I believe so.
And we have to look at Denver's players, specifically Michael Porter Jr. and Monte Morris. Not Monte Morris specifically shooting 1 for 10. You're not going to get that from him in the next couple of games. He's going to play a lot better than he did in game 1, and they're going to close that gap a little bit. Nikola Jokic is not going to put up 22 points only in the rest of the series. That's just definitely not his game or not his MO. He's more of a 30-point per game guy. Michael Porter Jr., I expect for him to have a bounce-back game in game 2. Austin Rivers, I don't expect crazy amount of numbers from him. 7 points is where I expect it to be. Obviously, Paul Millsap, I would like to see him put up better numbers than what he's doing. Why not? If I'm Denver, why not play Bol Bol a little bit more? I know the guy is a little bit. I guess you want to say skinny. If I'm not mistaken, he might be break too easy. But he's a good shooter when he wants to be, and he just hasn't gotten that opportunity yet for Denver to really show like what he can do. But only what he played. He played 2 minutes yesterday towards the end of the game, and he should probably be playing. I would try to give him maybe 10 to 15 minutes to see what he can do, because he can stretch the floor and might as well and rebound for what he can do for his game. Like Denver, I just don't see whatever happened in the second half from game 1 is not going to carry over into the rest of the series. I do think Nikola Jokic and Michael Porter Jr. are enough they're 2 good basketball players, and they're definitely enough to beat the Phoenix Suns. I don't see Mikal Bridges playing like as well as he did last game. Devin Booker had 21 points. Maybe we'll see that number tick up a little bit. DeAndre Ayton had a lucky game, 20 points. I don't expect him to do that again because I don't trust him at all whatsoever. But I still think Denver's going to win the series in 7. So I'm going to stick by my word there.
Okay, I mean, to go off of that, you guys are acting like the Suns bench went crazy yesterday. What? Cameron Payne had 7, Torrey Craig had 9, and Dario Saric had 5, and that's your leading scorers off the bench, and that's it? Mm-hmm. No, that's not. I wouldn't consider that a good bench performance. I would say that's very below average. Yeah. And Devin Booker scoring, you're talking about Nikola Jokic only having 22 points. That's not going to happen again. Well, I'm sorry, Devin Booker only had 21 then, and that's probably not going to happen again either. You can make the argument that both teams didn't play their 100% best basketball. The difference was, to me, was Chris Paul in that fourth quarter. every time the Nuggets kind of slipped back, thought that they were going to get closer in the game, Chris Paul would hit a clutch 3-point shot. Chris Paul would he'd make the right pass or he'd have an easy bucket in the lane. Chris Paul was proving what it is to have a good vet, not only just a veteran point guard, but an all-star veteran point guard. He proved to be the difference maker in that game one. Everyone wants to talk about Jokic not having a good game, Bridges scoring 23, but I think Chris Paul was the main difference maker in that game last night.
I mean, Blake, I think the Suns actually did play their best basketball. I mean, I'm just looking at this right now, and everyone in that starting lineup had 20 points, shooting great from the field, except Jay Crowder, who had 14 points. I mean, I just think I don't see how the Suns can come out here again. Obviously, they can because they have the talent with Devin Booker, Chris Paul. I'm not saying they don't have the talent, but they played amazing. They couldn't miss shots. They were coming off that pick and roll, and they were just hitting the corner. I mean, I think that what's not being talked about right now is Denver's defense, because I think Denver they'll be fine on the offensive end. I mean, shooting the percentage that they did, they're obviously going to shoot better than that next game. But if you're looking just the way that they ran their defense, every time Devin Booker came off the pick and roll, they were helping. Everyone was in the paint, so that just left the shooters open in the corner. I don't know how many threes they gave up in the corner. And also, no one's talking about this, but after the game, it was said that they gave up 8 and 1s. I mean, that just can't happen. That can't happen at all. I think they hit 2 or 3 and 1 threes. I mean, if you're going to foul the guy, you cannot let him get the shot off when it comes to the paint as well. I mean, it was just defensive breakdown after defensive breakdown. And obviously they won by 17, but I just don't see that happening again.
No, yeah, absolutely. Oh, go ahead, Blake. My bad. Go ahead.
How many poor defensive performances by the Nuggets until we just called the Nuggets a bad defensive team? Yes, they beat the Trailblazers in round 1, but they weren't really playing great defense. Dame, most of those games, was getting everything he wanted. They were getting open. The Blazers did not hit open shots in that series, which is why they lost. CJ McCollum looked like he never played basketball before. And yes, that series is over with, but I'm just going to say that the Nuggets aren't a good defensive team. They have a bunch of players that are good offensive players. Michael Porter Jr., good offensive player, but is notoriously not good on defense. Nikola Jokic, good offensive player, notoriously not good on defense. Aaron Gordon, very average defensive player, and that's just because he's super athletic. But Austin Rivers, Facundo Campazzo, these aren't good defensive players. Your best defensive player is Paul Millsap, and he's getting 13 minutes off the bench. The Nuggets don't win games by playing defense. They win games by outscoring their opponents. And this is the main reason why I think they're just not going to win the series against the Suns, because the Suns are just so good defensively and they're good offensively.
I mean, but still, I think making a few adjustments coming off that ball screen, the help side defense, I think that's going to help tremendously. I think that covers your differential and how much they lost by. I just don't see. I know you might not say that they're the best defensive team, but like you said, they were. I mean, watching that Portland series, they were hitting tough shots. They weren't just some wide open 3-pointers. The Suns were getting wide open 3-pointers just because of rotations. I mean, that can be fixed. I think obviously after the game, they probably watched film and. I mean, they probably saw all the rotations that they missed and all just the little things that they could have done better. I mean, obviously Phoenix could have done some better things as well, but I just think that the Nuggets are too good not to win this series.
This is my thoughts, because Phoenix, the whole entire starting lineup had 20 plus points. The bench did not play well at all. I can't see Phoenix doing that every game this series. Henceforth, why I still think Denver, offensively, they're probably a little bit better than Phoenix, but they just haven't proven that in game 1. They're going to prove it the rest of the series. Nikola Jokic, obviously, he's the MVP this year. He didn't have a great game. Michael Porter Jr. didn't have his standard 25 plus point game. So there's still a lot of room to improve for Denver as the series goes on. So I still believe that they win the series in 7, but I just don't see how Phoenix can put together that they have 4 starters had 20 plus points. Again, Mikal Bridges is not going to do that again for you. DeAndre Ayton, I just don't trust the guy at all. I really don't. He'll have one great game. This will probably be that game, and then the rest of the series he'll disappear. So Devin Booker, yes, you could probably see him score 25 to 40 points. Chris Paul, he looks pretty good right now. We'll see how it goes the rest of the series, but I just don't see the offensive starter on the offensive side for the Phoenix Suns, how their starters are going to be able to continue doing this for the rest of the series.
All I gotta say is yes, I don't expect Mikal to get 23 again. He'll probably get around 15 to 18. Now with the DeAndre Ayton take, I completely disagree. I told you this in the Lakers series. When Anthony Davis went down, they had no usage and there was no point of giving that rock to DeAndre Ayton. Why? Because Devin Booker and everybody else had hot hands and they wanted to hit the hot hands and feed the hot hands. Right now, they saw the paint was soft, the paint was weak, the paint was suspect, like some people would use in those terms. So they just let DeAndre Ayton eat, and he ate, took advantage of it, and scored 20. If they come out and the Denver Nuggets play soft down there in the paint, I think DeAndre has yet another game around 18 to 20 points and just clobbers that paint and just demolishes that defense, and then just proves his dominance as a big in the league. But from everybody else, do I expect another 20-point game from Chris Paul? I mean, if he gets hot, sure, I guess we could leave him at 15, but I don't think that bench plays that bad. We saw Cameron Johnson in that Lakers series time and time again had 10 plus points. We saw Cameron Payne a couple games had 15 points when CP3 went down. I think we see a better performance from their bench. I still think the Suns win in 6. But you're right with the Nuggets. I don't think they get that horrible of a performance from Monte Morris, like I've mentioned. I think Austin Rivers plays a bit better. I think he's underrated in this series. And yeah, I mean, other than that, there's not many. Everybody did their part that was supposed to do their part. Obviously, Jokic should have performed a little bit better, and PJ a little bit better. We talked about this. Aaron Gordon did what me and Blake talked about a couple episodes ago. But Austin Rivers, if he plays a little bit better and gets maybe 15 points, like a few games they did in the Portland series, maybe shoots the ball a little bit better, I think it's a closer game, and maybe they can battle it down the stretch and finish this game off. But I don't know.
I think Sebastian just touched on it. What the Suns do so well is they're able to point out the weakness in the defense, and they're able to exploit it every single game. The Suns don't it's not like he was saying, the Suns were forcing the hot hands in that series against the Lakers. Right now, that is DeAndre Ayton. If no one can guard him in the post, they're going to keep feeding him. The Suns players play their roles better than any other team I've seen this year. They all know what they need to do to win. Devin Booker's not going to force shots. Chris Paul's not going to force shots. DeAndre Ayton's not going to force shot. Mikal Bridges isn't going to force shots, and neither is Crowder. And if you have your starting 5 all able to identify their role and not force shots, that's how you win games in the playoffs, and I think that's what the Suns are just doing so well.
The series definitely isn't over, and we still have a lot of games to go before the winner is decided in this round 2. So, as we move on from the Phoenix Suns winning 122 to 105 and taking a 1-0 lead in the series, before we move on to the next part of the podcast, we're going to have a couple of things to remind everyone that's listening or watching to the podcast at the moment. If you haven't followed already on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, please give us a rating or review. If you're on YouTube watching this on the playback, subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave us a comment, tell us how we can improve the show. Anything helps me and Sebastian on the feedback side, and we look to improve on the show every episode we do. And thanks everyone for the support. And as we move on to the next main topic of today's show, we have the Atlanta Hawks of 1-0 over the Philadelphia 76ers. So, Ravin, aka Sebastian, do the Philadelphia 76ers bounce back and take game 2, or is Trae Young on another level right now, and is he looking to propel the Atlanta Hawks to the Eastern Conference Finals with another game 2 win?
Listen, with this game, I mentioned this a couple days ago. I don't think I mentioned it on the pod, though. What the 76ers need, honestly, is a better player production, or not player production, sorry, a better production from their players off the bench, as well as, honestly, that questionable coaching, bro. Like I mentioned last pod, they were down, I think 10, and Doc took every single starter out. I don't know how you do that and then just let Atlanta keep in. I think they kept in Bogdan, who played that entire first quarter, and John Collins. They just allowed some of these star players from the Atlanta Hawks to just cook their bench, and then it got to a 20-point blowout. And then at that point, they didn't bring in the second quarter Tobias Harris until 8 minutes left in that second quarter. So it just blew my mind in that aspect. I have no idea exactly what Doc is going to do next game. Sure, some of these shots need to fall for some of these hoopers, but for Joel Embiid to drop almost 40 points with a torn meniscus or a small tear in his meniscus just blows my mind. I think you get better production from Danny Green, who went 2 for 7, 0 for 4. I think Tobias shoots the ball a little bit better. Maybe Tyrese Maxey hoops a little bit off the bench. But, I mean, there's not much to expect. You need Ben Simmons to score maybe 20, 25 in this series if and only if the Hawks are going to keep that momentum that they have from this game and keep shooting from all cylinders, because God bless America. These boys were just shooting that rock and knocking every single shot down. I don't know how they just shoot literally almost 50 shots, almost 50% from the three in that last game and expect to lose a game. They almost did now. Don't get me wrong. But the fact of the matter is, if these boys keep hooping and they keep making these threes, it's going to be a problem because, to be honest with you, there's no shooters on this 76ers team except maybe Joel and Seth Curry. Other than that, like, you don't expect people to shoot threes. Ben can't do it. Tobias is not that great from it. You know what I mean? So, like, and then I guess off their bench, Matisse and like Korkmaz, but like, you're not going to get that type of production that the Hawks are like producing right now with the capability of getting shots, big shots from some of these players off the bench. So honestly, I was surprised if Ben can step up and shoot the free throw goddamn way better, because he shot 3 for 10. If he can shoot the free throw better, I think it's a close game. Other than that, there's not really much to say. Like, it just shocked me that when they almost, first of all, they were down by so much. And then second of all, that Atlanta almost threw that game. So I don't know. We'll see. Blake?
Well, first, I'm going to say that you just completely disrespected Danny Green so hard right there.
Man, I don't even care, bro. That's not even Danny Green. That's not Danny Green, bro. That's Danny White, bro.
I mean, you just went through the entire 76ers lineup and what players shoot threes, and you just completely left off Danny Green.
That's Danny White, bro.
I had to shout him out there real quick, but I couldn't. Maybe I don't want to say I was a Hawks hater going into the playoffs, but I definitely didn't believe that they would make much noise. But they're definitely shutting me up. I mean, the Knicks were known to be a defensive team, and so are the 76ers. And they've just proven that it doesn't matter. They're going to get their points, and if you can't keep up with the Hawks, well, like you saw in the 76ers clawed back in that game, but the Hawks built such an early lead that it just didn't matter. Now, do I think the Hawks have that good of a game again? Maybe, but I don't think that it's going to stay like that throughout the series. I mean, Joel Embiid, if you would have told me he was going to have 39-9, I would have told you, all right, 76ers by 15 plus. So the score, I mean, it's surprising as is, but I think that the Hawks, if they can somehow continue to play about 75% of the way they did in game one, because I think game one was the perfect script for the Hawks. Everything they needed to happen happened, so I don't think that'll happen again. Like that was their perfect game. But I think the Hawks can make that, if they can play 75% of the way they did, that they can win this series. And I thought the 76ers had this in a sweep before the series. I called 4-0 or 4-1. I didn't think the Hawks had much of a chance, but the Hawks are continuing to prove me wrong. And I mean, that's all I can say about it right now.
I mean, yeah, I'm definitely with Blake. I think before this series started, I mean, looking at the first series against the Knicks, I didn't really think much of the Hawks winning that series just because it's the Knicks, and not saying that they didn't have a great year, but I still thought, okay, once they face Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, Danny Green, like once they face that lineup, it's over in 4 or 5 games. I agree with Blake. But I mean, Trae Young, that kid's a bucket. He can't be stopped. He just doesn't miss. But even looking at all that, I still think the 76ers are just too good for the Hawks. I mean, even with Joel Embiid being hurt with that meniscus tear, I mean, he still put up 39 points. No one can stop him. No one can stop him at all. I just – and to Sebastian talking about Ben Simmons needing to play better, I don't even think he needs to play better. I think Ben Simmons is a player who puts up 15 points a game but just can pass the ball. And he's a floor general. I don't think he needs to score the ball 20-something points a game for them to win. I just don't think that needs to happen. I just think that I just don't see the Hawks continually putting together 50%, almost 50% from the three-point line. I mean, I just don't see that happening. So I think the Sixers still have this series in 5 or 6 games.
I mean, go ahead, Montana.
Yes, I came into the playoffs I hate the Hawks with every fiber in my being. I hate Trae Young. I just think he's so cocky all the time. I honestly, I'm gonna give the Hawks the credit where they deserve it, because they're playing really good on offense right now. Maybe the defense isn't at the level it needs to be yet, but I do believe that Atlanta is going to win this series just purely because of the offensive potential that they have. I believe Trae Young, he's just playing. I think this is his coming out party, and the Hawks, this is their time to ascend into the Eastern Conference Finals because they're definitely playing like they are one of the top teams in the East. Trae Young is playing fantastic right now. The guy's playing, dropping 30+ points a game. He's giving the players around him the right passes at the right time, at the right moments. You guys like John Collins have stepped up into the role that he was supposed to be, the number 2 guy for the Atlanta Hawks, and he's playing really well right now. I bet you Milwaukee wishes they had Bogdan Bogdanovic right now at the moment because the guy's a straight shooter. He shoots 20. He had 23 points if I'm not mistaken in game 1. There's no guarantee he's going to do that again in game 2, but there's always the possibility he does that and even more. What's his name? Clint Capella. The guy's a force down low on the glass. The guy he just rebounds consistently. I think they out rebounded Philadelphia on the offensive boards last game, which was something that Philadelphia has to shore up. Besides that, Danilo Gallinari, Kevin Huerter. We haven't even really. DeAndre Hunter hasn't really done much yet in the series. I expect that to change as the series keeps going. As far as Philadelphia goes, yes, Joel Embiid, 39 points, 9 rebounds. There's no way you can stop him, but you could stop everyone else around him. Mm-hmm. Ben Simmons, I still think that guy is overrated a little bit. As a floor general, if Atlanta's going to play that card where they're going to foul Ben Simmons late in games to make him shoot free throws to win the game, I don't like Philadelphia's chances whatsoever because Ben Simmons has proven consistently that he's not a very good free throw shooter. And maybe that's something in the offseason he can work on going into next season because, in my opinion, if you're an NBA player, you should be able to, and if you're a point guard for the team, you should be able to shoot free throws. That's something that has to change for Philly. Danny Green, I don't expect him to go for 0 points or 0 for 4 from the 3-point line. I think that's going to change. Seth Curry is going to do what he does. He's going to drop his 20+ points every once in a while. And then he's going to play the next game and not do that same exact number that he did in game 1. Besides that, though, I think Philadelphia wins game 2, but I still believe Atlanta wins the series. I just don't know if it's going to be in 6 or 7, but I do believe Atlanta still wins the series.
So here's my thing about Ben Simmons, though, right? In that game, I don't know if you guys watched that game. In that late stretch down in the 3rd and the 4th, when they were making that push to come back, Ben Simmons is literally like nobody's in that paint. Their best defensive player for the Hawks, I think, was Danilo Gallinari or Kungua or however you pronounce his name. Freaking Big O. How do you not, as a 6'11" point guard, how do you not attack the rim and just either yam it or go up for a layup on somebody that's a rook? You know what I'm saying? Like he has that ability and that presence to just go up and finish that ball. Like why just finish or stay 7 for 7 and kick it out to Danny Green, who's not making your damn shots? Tobias is shooting contested shots. Seth Curry can't do everything in the world. You know what I mean? Like he passes the ball up to contested shots rather than going for somewhat of a small contest of a layup. It's Ben Simmons who's like freaking Hujangus. You know what I mean? Everybody was calling this kid a LeBron, a young LeBron this, LeBron that. LeBron was attacking the rim. Why is Ben Simmons not? He's supposed to be the second player.
I think it comes down to confidence. Ben Simmons, I'm not saying he's overall not a confident player, but in terms of his offense ability, he just doesn't look like he wants to score the ball.
He doesn't have that mentality.
Exactly. When he drives into the lane, it's pass first always. Mm-hmm. It's never looking to score, which I think is a problem. I think as an NBA player, yes, passing is important, but you need to look to score first because the passes are going to be there. The passes will always be there, but if you can't get a bucket, what are you going to do? But I also don't – you brought up the free throw percentage. Yes, this Ben Simmons is not a good free throw percentage, but the 76ers as a team shot 24 of 35. That's under 69%. That won't happen again in this series. If the 76ers make 5 or 6 more free throws and are just on pace with league average, they're going to win that game. And that's just what it comes down to. Can the 76ers do the little things? I mean, they turn the ball over 19 times too. I mean, that's just a recipe to lose games, missing free throws and lots of turnovers.
To be fair, though, about the free throw thing, Tyrese Maxey missed 2, Tobias misses 1, and Joel misses 1. Everybody else either didn't shoot or were perfect from the free throw line. So the problem was Ben Simmons' 7 missed free throws. That's why the percentage is so low. you can't expect everyone to go perfect from the free throw line. You know what I mean? So
No, yeah, I agree.
in the free throw perspective, Ben Simmons is the problem in that aspect. But yeah, the turnover thing, I completely agree. There was just too many extra passes.
If Atlanta plays the Hawk-Simmons game, and if the games are close in the end of game, Philadelphia's screwed because then they're gonna have to decide whether or not Ben Simmons should be on the floor in the final minute of the game. Because go ahead.
That's what happened in the Wizards series. Down the stretch, Scott Brooks thought about that and was like, "Okay, let's go, Hawk-Simmons, boom." And Buddy went 5 for 11 from that game, and I think they lost that game. I could be wrong, but I don't know, man. Like it's just I don't know. It's very and Doc took him out too. Doc ended up taking him out late in that fourth quarter. I think it was like a minute left, and he took him out. And then they started playing through everybody else. I don't know, bro. It's a problem that Shaq was talking about and Chuck were talking about in that Wizards series. It comes down to pressure. Is Ben Simmons scared of the pressure? Like you can be perfectly fine when you're shooting practice free throws, but when it comes down to the pressure game time situation, you need these free throws. Ben Simmons just folds under it. He crumbles and he just gets scared. He doesn't have that mentality. I don't think he has that winning mentality. I'm going to be keeping it a buck. I think he just gets carried. From what I'm seeing right now, bro, like this is sad. There's no chance that they should be losing this. I had this series going 5 at best, Philly winning in 5, and now I think freaking Atlanta wins in 6. I don't know. This is just a sad team right now.
All right. Anything else you guys have to say about the Philadelphia 76ers and the Atlanta Hawks?
I have one question. Who do you guys, not necessarily who you think is the better team out of the two, who do you think brings a better matchup for the Nets? I guess this is assuming the Nets beat the Bucks, which I do think they will. Who do you think has a better matchup?
Defensively, Philly. Offensively, Atlanta. Yeah, offensively, Atlanta. So it kind of depends on how you want to look at it. Do you want to look at Philly as like a Milwaukee Bucks having a great defensive-minded team but a suspect-ass offense? I'll go with Philly. Do you want a great offense with a questionable defense? I'll go with Atlanta because they can put the numbers up that Brooklyn Nets can because they have that depth that with the ability to shoot the rock so well.
If Atlanta's playing Brooklyn, it's going to be a shootout every game.
It's going to be an all-star game 100%.
I mean, I think Philly matches up in both ways. Maybe not offensively, obviously, but defensively, I just don't see. I mean, Ben Simmons against Kyrie. I don't know who's going to guard Joel on the Brooklyn Nets. I don't know who guards
nobody.
him.
Literally nobody
Can guard him. And
nobody.
Then I'm looking at the Brooklyn Nets. Like I just don't see how. Like I think Philadelphia will give the Brooklyn Nets a good series. I still think they're going to win this series, but I think the Sixers will be the best team against the Brooklyn Nets.
You think Blake Griffin would be guarding Joel Embiid in the series?
I mean, he plays the 5, or at least he's been playing, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it'd be Blake Griffin on him, which Joel Embiid will have himself a series.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You guys are talking about the 76ers offense, though, like it's garbage. We're acting like they didn't just put up 124 points, and we're acting like they don't have like playmakers. Yes, Ben Simmons cannot shoot, but you have a bucket in Tobias Harris. You have a bucket in Joel Embiid. You have a bucket in Seth Curry. Tyrese Maxey can get the points. Danny Green is a good player too. He hasn't ever since he was on the Lakers and in that finals. He had a couple bad games. I said it last episode. Buddy gets the most undeserved hate I've ever seen. It's unbelievable. Like for someone that's a 3-and-D player, I've never seen a 3-and-D player get so much hate in my life. I mean, I think it's unwarranted too.
Yeah, I bet you the Lakers wish they had him in round 1.
Exactly.
Alrighty. So, as we move on from the Philadelphia 76ers and Atlanta Hawks, we are now going to move on to the Los Angeles Clippers and the Utah Jazz as they get ready to play their game 1 in their best-of-7 series. So, as the Clippers are coming off a 7-game series against Dallas, the question to the panel here is, do the Clippers have enough left in the tank to go toe-to-toe with the offensive juggernaut that is the Utah Jazz?
I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if they do or not. We'll see tonight. But the only way that they can really compete, or at least this game is close tonight, is if one, obviously they get their regular little 20-20 from Paul George and Kawhi. Obviously we would expect more, but minimum 20 points. And then if they get carried single-handedly by these key players, if they step up, like we saw Marcus Morris in that Game 7, if we see a big performance from him, I'll give you both Blake and Montana. If Reggie Jackson can become a hooper that he has been slowly providing for this damn team, then sure. it should be a good game for them. But that Utah side, especially being well rested, I think they come out and I think they just start sparking. I want to keep it a buck. I think, and honestly, we saw Joe not have the great series in up against freaking the garbage ass Memphis Grizzlies. I think Joe comes out and has a better series this time around, and I think Jordan Clarkson proves that why he's the 6th man of the year. But yeah, they have a lot of pieces on that bench and offensively as well as obviously defensively. But I don't know, bro. It should be a good game tonight. I'm praying that there's no blowouts, bro. I'm praying this doesn't become some sort of a blowout and the Clippers are gassed. But I got Utah in 6.
I disagree. I've got the Clippers in this series, and I think the Clippers are actually the team that are going to win in 6. And I think we're forgetting that the Jazz, yes, great regular season, but they've had a great regular season the last 3 years. And what have they done in the playoffs? There's always a series that gets to the Jazz, and they choke. I mean, there's no other way to put it. They choke. And this is going to be a great test. I think this Clippers team is very solid. They're going to force you to play good basketball to beat them because they're not going to give you easy shots. And like you said, Kawhi and Paul George are going to get theirs. Kawhi, I mean, he had 45 points in Game 7. If you put Kawhi back up against the wall, he's going to go and he's going to do his thing and he's going to make sure his team's at least in a position to win the game, which is why I think the Jazz lose in 6 because what are we trusting? Are we going to trust Rudy Gobert to have himself a great series?
On the other side of that, are you going to trust Paul George and Kawhi? I mean, you talk about choking with the Jazz. I mean, the Clippers are. I don't know a franchise that has choked more than the Clippers with the talent that they have had on their roster.
Let them know.
I mean, you look at their roster right now. I mean, they almost lost to a sorry Mavericks team. I mean, I'm sorry, Luka Doncic is a great player, but I mean, Luka and Tim Hardaway are great players, but who else on that team was there? And they almost lost. That series was a 7-game series. So if you think that they can take Dallas to a 7-game series and barely beat them, you think they're going to beat Utah? And how you said 6? I don't know how many you said.
In 6, yeah.
I just don't see any way that can happen. Especially
we're talking about the sorry ass Mavs team that everyone was claiming has a chance to go to the finals after they went up 2-0 against the Clippers. It's this recency bias. The Mavs get beat in Game 7. The Mavs get beat in Game 6. So this Mavs team is now sorry all of a sudden.
Whoa. I didn't say it. He said it.
No, I agree. That's why I'm responding to what he said. I think that Mavs team was very solid, especially when you have someone like, yes, Luka didn't get as much help as he needed, but when you have someone like Luka dropping 40 points a game and that's going to be a given, you would expect that team's going to be put in an advantage to win the game and let alone win the series. And I think that the Jazz, yes, they have Donovan Mitchell and he's going to get you his, but who else on that team can you really trust in that fourth quarter to go get his? Jordan Clarkson?
Yes, that is the answer, Mr. Jordan Clarkson. His improvement from last year to this year, proving why he's the 6th man of the year, is exactly what is going to be the difference maker in this series. Single-handedly. He's going to be consistent, and you'll get your small production from Joe Ingles. I just don't know, are you going to get that same production from Marcus Morris that you got in that Game 7? Is he going to come out and spark 7 threes? I don't think so. Now, is he going to prove me wrong? Maybe. Is Reggie Jackson going to bring out that 6 for 12 game that he had that you guys said, oh, that's his body? You know what I'm saying? I don't think we're going to see that. Maybe 15. Sure, he can have that. But I don't think Reggie Jackson scores 20. I don't think they get consistent performances from their bench and their role players where Utah has enough ability to go deep with Mike Conley, D. Mitch, Jordan Clarkson, and the rest of the supporting cast to win this series. That's just me.
I'm going to stick to it. I do think that the Clippers are going to win the series in 7 games. Defensively, the Clippers are a way better team than Utah. The only thing that gives me any kind of concern is Utah's offense. I believe they're really good at offense. And with Jordan Clarkson dropping 25 points off the bench, that's going to be an issue for the Clippers, I believe, because I don't believe the Clippers have that great of a bench. So I believe the only way that the Clippers win the series in 7 is if they play hard on defense, obviously. And if Kawhi Leonard and Paul George put up their respective numbers, each of them need to play like an all-star A-list type of player. And Kawhi Leonard, I believe he's still – everyone gives – we look at when he went on that run in the East, he had some tough he has some tough defensive teams that he had to go up against.
Yep.
He had to play against Philadelphia that he barely won in 7 games off that crazy shot to win at the buzzer. They had the series against Milwaukee Bucks. That was a tough series going in, that they won that series also. That's another good defensive team. Against Golden State that year that they won the championship, that he had played the Warriors, but without Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson pretty much the whole series. And the Warriors still took him to 6 games, but obviously the Toronto Raptors defense was the key for them to win that series. But I believe that obviously the Clippers are one of the toughest defensive teams in the league. And when Kawhi Leonard puts his mind to it and he wants to guard the team's best player, listen, I expect him to be on Donovan Mitchell a lot in the series, because when we saw what he did when he started when he started defending Luka in that second half, Luka went from 30 points to 16 in the second half. So that's a huge difference. And that's gonna be why I believe the Clippers win, is because of Kawhi Leonard's two-way player ability to score the basketball as well as play defense on your best player.
All I gotta say is really quick, my sleeper on this Utah Jazz team to solidify them a dub is Royce O'Neal. If he comes out and fills in that role, like let's say Jordan Clarkson starts slow. If Royce O'Neal can hit those shots in the corner or on the wing, whatever the case, wherever he spots up, if he can hit those shots, I think it'll be huge for Utah to keep that momentum going and keep that team afloat.
Kind of going what Montana said, I think the Clippers defense is just going to be the difference maker in this series, because you've got players, because their players aren't just good defensively. You've got players like Paul George, Marcus Morris, Kawhi Leonard. These are all guys, even Reggie Jackson. These are all guys that are going to hustle for you. They're going to play good defense. They're going to be in the right position, but they can also get you buckets on the other end of the floor. For me, the Jazz roster is filled with players that are either good defensively or they're good offensively. The only player that's kind of good both is Mike Conley. And if Mike Conley is going to be the difference maker in this series, then so be it. But I don't think he will be, because Mike Conley's your starting guard. So he's either getting guarded by Kawhi probably, or he's going to get guarded by Paul George, just depending on who Kawhi wants to guard. And I just don't think the Jazz have enough. Like, we like to talk about their deep bench, but like when you play a good defensive team, you have to hit contested shots. And when I was watching the last Jazz series, the Jazz were making a lot of wide open shots. And that's something that the Clippers just do not give up. The Clippers do not give up open shots. They're going to make you make the right decision, and they're going to make you make the tough shot. And I don't think the Jazz are going to be able to hit those shots consistently.
I mean, I know you talked about the Clippers being this offensive team, but I think that's a big what if. I mean, Paul George has been proven. I mean, it's a big what if he's going to show up for this series or not. And I think saying that Reggie Jackson is an offensive player is kind of outlandish as well. I mean, he's only averaged 10 points the entire season, so I think it's kind of crazy to say that he's this offensive player that the Clippers can rely on. Because his points per game versus Utah this season has been 6. So I mean, clearly they did something right against this guy, that he's not going to be able to score the ball very easily. So I just don't see the Clippers being able to match up with the Jazz in this series.
Let him know, Nathan. Let him know.
Well, we're on 2 different ends of the spectrum here. Me and Blake got the Clippers, and you and Sebastian got the Jazz in this series. So I guess we'll see how it goes. And I'm sure I'll have to reconvene at the end of this to see who has bragging rights at the end.
And all I gotta say really quick is, it's crazy, bro. The 2 teams that would always make it in our connected franchise to the Super Bowl are the ones that got the winning mindset and the winning mentality. What's up, Nathan?
I remember that one season I won the Super Bowl. And
one season out of 5. Oh wow.
Yeah. Right.
Hey, we're missing one member of that league that none of you guys want to talk about.
Listen, that man does not exist. All right, that man does not exist in my eyes, bro. Stop it, bro. Stop it. That man out of nowhere.
Shady about losing to that Super Bowl.
That man pulled out the damn YouTube and went on everything, wrote down a whole game plan and how to play it. Nah, bro, I don't want to talk about that.
Who are you talking about?
The other Blake, bro. The other
Blake. Oh yeah, that's right.
We're not even going to
shout out to him right now, right?
Yeah, quick shout out, bro. The homie.
The other Blake.
This freaking Buford that decided, let me watch YouTube before this game so I could whoop his ass.
Yeah, he watched YouTube he found all the cheat code.
Yeah, the stupid blitzes that just always would bop me, bro. It's not cool, bro.
All right, as we get ready to end today's show, I just want to give you guys a quick reminder. If you guys haven't followed the podcast yet, drop a rating or review on Apple Podcasts, follow on Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you guys listen to your audio on this platform. As for video listeners, if you guys are going to watch this show later on YouTube, drop a like, leave a comment, tell us how we can improve on the show. As far as that goes, Sebastian, where can they find you?
Rabbit FL everywhere, all social media platforms.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wildcard Movies. Blake, where can they find you?
You can find me at Blake Spillers at Twitter or Blake_Spillers on Instagram. Look me up.
Mr. Nathan Ertz, where can they find you?
Yeah, just Nathan Ertz on Twitter and Instagram.
All right. Before I want to end today's show, I want to thank our special guests for joining us, and hopefully we'll have a lot more debates going on in the near future. So as we get ready to sign off, this is Montana, your co-host on Unspoken Rules. Signing off, Sebastian, my other co-host on Unspoken Rules. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.
Peace.
Yep. See you guys.